All right, everyone, we got to talk about CNN, their, Clinton News Network again. Fake news, propaganda, literally corporate propaganda. Also, state co-opted in many cases. They should be regulated more, I guess. You know, they're not really, since they partner directly with the state itself and with political campaigns. Yeah, I'd say that sort of exempts them from truly operating under the First Amendment, maybe a true news capacity. Just joking there, officially speaking. But CNN is now speculating that Trump is going to fail with regards to the North Korean negotiations. Now, what do we know about it when the mainstream media claims that Trump will probably fail at something? So far, he doesn't appear to have ever suffered from that actual fate. On China, I was assured when Trump first seriously spoke of Chinese tariffs, it would crush our economy. We'd be in a Great Depression the next day. It could cause a nuclear war. China would never back down. It would force the entire global economy into a tailspin. Ultimately, we would lose, and we'd become a secondary potato patch power. Did any of this happen, or did we end up coming out largely unscathed? You know how you can tell it was the latter and the media was wrong? They're not reporting on it anymore. They don't want to talk about Chinese tariffs. It's not exciting because it didn't lead to the doomsday scenario they were hoping for. They hoped that would happen. They hoped that Trump would be proven to be a fool, and they were totally wrong. What about our Syria strike? Oh, it's going to lead to a greater war, a ground invasion. Now, as someone who deeply opposes the concept of even limited strikes on any of Assad's forces, or any further involvement in Syria, it did not lead to the kind of massive scenario that they were worried about. They were worried about, oh, we're going to get into it with Russia. It's going to cause a nuclear conflict. You know, the same nuclear conflict that they themselves support every time they support sanctioning Russia for little or no provocation and pretending that they're responsible for all of our problems as a society. It's gotten to the point, it's gotten so bad that social justice warriors, liberals, garden variety and self-proclaimed, because most of them are just authoritarians that want more of your money for their own pockets. Basically, they want to steal from you. And it's basically what a liberal means at this point, which is sad because it meant something different maybe 10 years ago. Now, it's gotten to the point where these people, if you criticize the DNC or the FBI, or you say, well, maybe Trump's not Hitler anywhere online, they're going to say, oh, bot! Ignore, block, ignore, report, and move on. It's a Russian bot. Literally, I've been called a Russian bot dozens of times on Facebook. Now, another reason not to use Facebook anymore, it's just a den of stupidity at this point. CNN also claimed that the tax cuts that Trump levied would immediately collapse the economy. So, the tax cuts that he passed and the China tariffs were both supposed to cause massive economic mayhem. Shouldn't we be like Somalia right now? Shouldn't we lack a functioning state? Shouldn't we be worse off than Venezuela? They're socialists, so that's okay. Shouldn't we be collapsing? No, instead, China continues to slow in growth. Venezuela collapses. Somalia has no functioning government. We're doing just fine and dandy. Somehow we didn't get screwed. What about when Trump calls out Merkel or somebody over in Europe? Oh, he's going to alienate, NATO will stop existing, he's going to alienate everyone. Did it happen? No. Everything's fine. Now they're talking about his bromance with Macron. Now, supposedly Macron hated him, thought he was dumb, was going to play him as a fool, and France would become a rising power again. Did that happen? Or do they seem to get along generally? I was assured that Trump couldn't get along with anyone. Instead, he's having a great time with Jinping. He's having a great time with Macron. He's probably going to have a great time with Kim Jong-un. There will probably be a photo of them bowling together or something by the end of the summit. Now, when I see that CNN and all these groups that claimed he could never win the primaries, he could never win Super Tuesday, he could never win the election, he'd be impeached, he'll collapse the economy, the sky is falling in the most literal sense, over and fucking over for 2 fucking years. When I see that the same chorus of stupid voices is saying he's going to fail on this, it gives me a pretty good indicator. I'll give a 99% chance he doesn't fail. I think that he'll do just fine in the Korean negotiations. Now, what form does fine take? If our expectation is that after a couple of days of chatting with Kim Jong-un, the Korean peninsula reunifies, the now unified Korea gives up nuclear weapons and everything is hunky-dory forever, that's probably asking too much. At that point, he really would be the God Emperor of the United States. Probably people would clamor for getting rid of term limits in the most literal sense. What I expect, though, is a high possibility of a very warm reception, plenty of handshaking and photo ops. Ultimately, at the end of the day, large scale, things won't change much. Smaller scale, though, things will begin to change. You'll probably, for instance, see those Americans that have been held captive there freed. They'll probably get freed. Trump will take credit for it. He'll be due credit for that. It'll be a huge opportunity for him politically. Now, because he'll contrast that with Obama, who got one prisoner released in 2 terms from North Korea, who died a couple days later because he was basically a vegetable by that point. He'll contrast that. He'll gain brownie points on foreign policy. And he'll drum it up too. He'll say, oh, there's a chance for peace, and that's ultimately what the American people want. And that's a good selling point. Peace through strength apparently has returned. It seems to be working, generally speaking. I have reservations about some aspects of that. When it involves even harmless strikes that don't kill any civilians, but are still technically acts of war, that, to me, it's still a bad idea. But if it works, if it's pragmatic, if sending a few aircraft carriers over there can really get negotiations going, if we can avoid basically genocide, which is what would happen if the DMZ erupted into warfare, virtually everyone in Korea would be dead. There wouldn't be a large Korean population in the world anymore. North Korea would be totally annihilated. South Korea's northern half would be ripped apart by every possible munition you can think of, probably hydrogen bombs. There wouldn't be a lot of fucking survivors. Japan would take a hit. China would almost certainly get hit in the frenzy. Other countries might get involved as well. It would be a nuclear inferno. If we can avoid that, we should give Trump credit even if it did involve strikes on an unrelated nation, so long as civilians weren't harmed. Now, Trump, of course, continues the drone program. I oppose that too, although it does seem to have been useful against ISIS. I question whether all of the people that have been killed or injured really have anything to do with Islamofascism. I'm against war in that sense, because I don't think we need to be in the Middle East in the first place. Let other people handle it. As far as Korea, it's a little bit different. North Korea, as a state, has threatened to annihilate several of our allies and us. Now, even if they're not capable at this point of doing the latter, it is a credible threat when it involves South Korea. It's credible if it involves China or Japan. We're getting more chummy with China these days, despite the fact that Xi Jinping has gone back 30 years in politics to become a de facto dictator. Now, we'll see if that continues, if they ever suffer from a depression. But Xi also knows in that case, and this is why the media is wrong, he can't wage a tariff war. They're already slowing down in growth. He goes into negative growth mode. He loses his job. China collapses. Probably ends up balkanizing. Some of those Western... Tibet probably does gain independence at that point. It's not going to look good on the world stage. It's sort of going to be a problem. Some of those Islamic majority provinces out west probably have become new countries too. It'd be a problem. As for North Korea, it's a lot weaker and more simple to deal with than China. China's more of a rational actor. Yes, China also has a credible nuclear deterrent in number 3 in the world. Does North Korea have that? Or do they have a smaller and weaker stockpile than Pakistan? Yeah, and we operate with impunity in Pakistan. You think that the fact that there are a few dozen hydrogen bombs in North Korea is going to prevent negotiations? This is a fair chance. Trump has a chance over the coming year or two to heal relations in Korea and get reunification going. If he gets that, of course he's going to win 2020. It won't be up for debate. Democrats probably won't even bother to run at that point. They're going to be like, well, we can't run on the economy. We can't run on foreign policy. Nobody cares about the sex scandals we talk so much about that aren't even scandals because it involved consensual interaction 10 fucking years ago. What are you going to run on? Where's your platform? Oh, yeah, we'll take things back to the Obama era. Trust me, Trump will be remembered far more fondly than you think at this time, if he's successful in Korea. Assuming no Great Depression, assuming war doesn't break out, he'll do just fine. Don't you worry your pretty little heads about it. When CNN says the sky is blue, I look outside assuming that there's so much cloud cover that it's some other hue. I assume it's gray. Or I assume it's the middle of the night and I just lost track of time. Oh, no, it's not blue, it's black. Dotted with little glowy things. I think that they're balls of hydrogen or whatever. That's what I think. Yeah, CNN wants to be taken seriously. Okay, so like that time that you predicted with 99% certainty that Clinton would win the presidency. Like when you said that it was illegal to read WikiLeaks releases and that we should just let you analyze them for us because you're so benevolent. Like all those times you talk about wanting to control the narrative because, people like me, we can't be trusted because we don't have 7-figure salaries and capped teeth. Okay, yeah, okay. I think I can go along with that. No, I don't think that I will. Again, as before, they have been so totally wrong on so many of their predictions with regards to these larger events Trump takes place in. Tax cuts, Chinese tariffs, the election itself at a dozen different stages. Why would I take this claim seriously? Oh, he's going to fail. He'll go over there. He'll get nothing accomplished. It'll be a big headache because Trump is used to quick negotiations. Okay. What about China? That's not quick. Yeah, okay, we basically prevented a tailspin from happening within a week. Trump did really well on that. But the negotiations are going to be ongoing for months. In the final form. What about NAFTA? He's been talking about that his whole presidency. That's still up in the air. What about the TPP being negotiated into a form, I oppose this, but being negotiated into a form that he would accept? You know, good idea on paper, but the next administration might renegotiate it again. That's the basic problem. Even if I trust Trump, I don't necessarily trust who comes next not to touch it again and play around with the deal and make it shitty. Because politicians have a tendency to tinker with what ain't broken. Hey, Phil Scott, I'm talking to you. That's about all. Peace out.